The Chancellor says he's reached agreement on spending reductions in the Ministry of Defence, which would cut civilian numbers but not affect military manpower. George Osborne said Britain's economy was moving from rescue to recovery, but warned they'd be in danger of relapse if the government's deficit-cutting plans were reversed. He'll announce his plans for another £11.5 billion worth of cuts on Wednesday, as our economics editor Faisal Islam reports.
George Osborne says the economy is now out of intensive care. Good news for the British patient, although in November 2010 he also said Britain was out of the danger zone. That was just after the last spending review that changed Britain. This week, even more austerity.
I think we are out of intensive care, and that's what this week is all about. It's about making clear that we are going to secure that recovery. We're going to go on taking the difficult decisions, go on cutting back spending, go on prioritising spending on the things that help the economy and cutting the spending that doesn't. I do running in the park.
Despite signing up to some of Mr Osborne's cuts in the next Parliament, the Shadow Chancellor called for stimulus.
The IMF have said a £10 billion capital boost now in road repairs and housing is the right thing to do for growth, to get the deficit down and release those resources for public services. The Chancellor can either listen to good advice or he can plough on with a failing plan. I fear he'll plough on, but it's the wrong call.
So could Wednesday herald a new type of treatment? The interesting thing is that George Osborne's medicine has not grown tax revenues or even really cut overall spending at all. The spending review was and is about planned cuts to Whitehall departmental spending. That's conventional austerity. And you can see it here, that it has, to an extent, worked. These are the cuts in those departments. This is the austerity that you hear about. But now, look at what's happened to the other chunk of public spending that's not controlled in advance. Annually managed payments of interest, benefits and pensions. These columns, the second columns, they're going up year on year on year. And now, in this year, they're more than half. So at this spending review, for the first time in the next Parliament, expect a new treatment, caps on this latter type of government spending on housing benefit and benefits paid to richer pensioners, like free bus passes and winter fuel payments.
All those pensioner benefits, not the basic state pension, all those other pensioner benefits, yes, of course we've got to look at how we can afford them. But I do think the simplest thing we can do is to increase the pension age as we have done and set out those increases to 66 and 67. I don't want pensioners to be impoverished.
From rescue to recovery, that's the slightly sunnier message the Chancellor wants to send with his spending review this week. He'll be helped in that message by the likely announcement from government statisticians that that dreaded double-dip recession has been erased away by the slightest of statistical revisions. But it's not easy to find £11.5 billion of savings in one fiscal year, and there's been ongoing tension with the business department, particularly over its capital budget for investment in high-tech infrastructure. So this one could go down to the wire. Faisal Islam, Channel 4 News at the Treasury.